Are you aware of your own emotions? Are you aware of the emotions and feelings of other people? Are you aware of how your behaviour affects others? Building healthy emotional intelligence and strong communication is very important for maintaining good relationships. It is in knowing yourself that you will get to know others too. My name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. Being aware of what you're going through can make you very aware of how other people react as well. So being empathic or compassionate with yourself and how you feel can help you to understand others better as well. This is the thing. We've been told for years, for generations, it's unhealthy to express ourselves, to bottle up our emotions, that it's stronger not to show emotions. But this is bullshit. In not showing our emotions, this actually makes us weak. Vulnerability is the biggest superpower you will ever have. So being openly emotionally intelligent and openly communicative, you can actually build stronger bonds with people. Like, how are you supposed to read each other's minds? And I know we have telepathy. I know we have that in certain situations. But as humans, we're fucking closed off, and we literally don't read each other. We're not aware of person's body language because we're not aware of our own fucking needs. You know what I mean? And if we can't read ourselves, how can we read others? If we're not open with ourselves and our emotions, how can we be reactive to other people? Or responsive, not reactive. And this is the thing, are you empathic towards other people? Are you compassionate towards other people? Do you actively listen? This is another form, there's so many things that we can have within us that will make us aware of our emotions. That's it. It's self-awareness. Are you self-aware? This is for years, I had no idea what emotional intelligence was. I had very low emotional intelligence. I wasn't aware of my feelings. I used to drink a lot. So if I was feeling anything, I would numb it with alcohol or drugs. So therefore, I was not aware of how I felt. So how could I be aware of how other people feel? And I'm always a very empathic person, so I understand when somebody's upset. But a lot of times, another thing that we don't do is we don't listen to people. We don't actively listen to people. And that's being unaware of how you're responding to other people or how people are responding to you. If somebody's telling you their emotions and feelings, are you actually listening? Are you taking on what they're saying, or are you just waiting to respond? Because oftentimes in conversations, we don't listen to the other people. I've had to actually train myself to actively listen, which is obviously a skill that we need as a coach. But oftentimes we're in conversations where we're literally waiting for the next person to stop so we can say our bit, or we interrupt them so we can say our bit. That's not emotional awareness. That's not how you have a healthy relationship. You know what I mean? If somebody expresses their feelings to you, their emotions to you, are you taking it on board, or are you ignoring it? Because if you're ignoring it, it means you're ignoring yourself as well. You're unaware of what you're doing in your life, so you cannot actually effectively take on somebody else's emotions or feelings. We need to start being self-aware. It's a simple thing of asking yourself, why am I feeling this? How am I feeling this? How is my body reacting to this? Then you can use your own experience to be there for others as well. We can build healthier relationships if we openly communicate as well. That's another thing, that's vulnerability. Having high emotional intelligence is having high levels of being capable of being vulnerable, being capable of opening yourself up, having those hard conversations. The best of relationships can turn volatile if we don't openly communicate and express our emotions and feelings. This is the thing. If you're not telling your partner how you feel, how are they going to know? And I've seen this so many times. I've done it myself. Women, especially. Okay, I'm going to do both sides, because obviously men and women have problems with open communication and healthy emotional intelligence. So a woman is getting angry with her partner because he's not doing all the things she wants him to do. He's not emotionally intelligent, and he's not openly communicating to her, but neither is she. It's mirrored fucking energy. So therefore, if she's kind of angry with him because he doesn't see me, he doesn't hear me, he's not compassionate towards my needs, And she just literally pouts and says, and he's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. Read my mind and then everything will be okay. And if you don't read my mind, you're a fucking asshole. And then the relationship ends up in an argument. And then vice versa. A man is like, oh, I'm a fucking man. I build fucking fire. I don't have fucking feelings. And therefore he's like, I provide. And that's my way of being a part of this. Like, and that's the thing. That's, men were taught to be a provider. Be, the security. Don't show emotions, but just bring the money in. That's not what we fucking need. We're not living in a cave anymore. Women can build their own fucking fires. Do you know what I mean? We can provide for ourselves. What we want men to do is be open about their emotions. What we want as women is to be open about our emotions. So this is the thing. Like, for me personally, I was so fearful of speaking in relationships. And it doesn't even, like, for me, it wasn't even just romantic relationships. It was all my fucking relationships. It was like, oh, don't speak, or, you're going to get fucked over it. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's just really, it's that fear of, like, if I say something, they're going to leave. Or if I say something, they're going to get angry. And, obviously because of past experiences and being in narcissistic relationships, when we did speak, we were shot down. When we became vulnerable and spoke about our traumas, for me personally, and I've seen this with other women as well, our narcissistic partner has literally thrown our trauma back in our face and literally more or less said, you deserved it. Do you know what I mean? So it's very hard for us to rebuild emotional intelligence and open communication after all we've known is pain. So I do understand that. Like, we can get in, like, I've seen this as well. People start dating and they're fucking so traumatized by their past relationships that they fuck it up. They self-sabotage. They don't openly communicate because they're like, if I don't speak, they won't leave me. But if you're not openly communicating about what you need, then how is that person going to change their ways or treat you better? And it's just funny, or it's not funny actually. You've got one fucking person, two people who are victims of fucking narcissistic abuse coming into a relationship. Both of them are afraid to speak, and both of them are afraid to show their emotions. Both of them are afraid to get hurt, and both of them are afraid to be vulnerable. So therefore, they fucking just run. And they actually literally sabotage a perfectly good connection when in actual fact, all they needed to do was communicate. And like, what you should see is as well, because we're so afraid to express ourselves. We're afraid that we're going to lose ourselves again. We're afraid that we're going to say the wrong thing. We're afraid that we're going to get hurt. But that other person is going through the same stuff. So, and hurt people unless they communicate. And that's what's happening, is hurt people are hurting people because they're not aware of their emotions. They're not aware of how to react to another person's emotions. They're not able to be openly vulnerable because of fear of rejection, because of fear of being hurt, because of fear of what their exes have done to them. And that's just, if we're going to live our lives that way, the caveman mentality, and then traumatized from past relationships on top of everything else, this is toxic. And, that's people get triggered by the words toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is being in that caveman mentality, not expressing healthy emotions, not expressing healthy communication, not being vulnerable. And, we've been told don't cry, especially for men, don't cry because it's weak. Oh my God, it's the fucking opposite. It is the most unmasculine thing to do, to be unproviding in an emotional sense. That's weak. That's cowardice. That's ballless in my opinion. It actually takes great strength to open your mouth. It takes great strength to express your emotions. It takes great strength to be aware of your own feelings and to be aware of how your behavior is affecting others and how other people are feeling. Unless you know yourself, you're never going to know another person. And if we're continuously in this world just blocking ourselves off with these walls, how are we ever going to have healthy relationships? How are we ever going to have healthy communication? And this happens in jobs as well. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing this happened to me as well. I went into a supervisor role and shit was the thanks I got. I was doing a fucking man's job better than any fucking man. And I was doing it for a long, long time, but I was refused the salary for it because, oh, you're still in training. I'm doing the fucking work every day and more. And you're telling me I don't have, and I just went, okay, fine. And I just left it. Eventually I had to leave that job because I was forced out. But at the end of the day, I should have stood my ground and said, excuse me, I'm doing this fucking work. I'm doing this shit. But I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough or strong enough in my communication skills to be able to stand my ground. And we literally spend our time in these jobs that are fucking us up because we're afraid to speak. We're not aware of our own needs. So how can we actually communicate our needs? This lack of awareness, it's scary. I spent my whole life afraid to be open, afraid to use my words, and it's only lately that I'm actually starting to build on that. Yes, my emotional intelligence has grown over the last few years. I'm so aware of myself, but to actually to use my voice, that's the scariest thing for me. It really is. And every time I've used my voice in the past, I've been shot down, and I'm using my voice now and I'm being completely ignored. But you know what? I'm not going to let it stop me, because that person is obviously not aware of himself enough to understand what I fucking, what I'm saying, because he's just not listening to it. And if you're not aware of yourself, you're not going to be able to be compassionate or empathic towards what somebody is saying to you. You're not actively listening. You're not actively taking on or comprehending. That's it. There's that quote that goes around. You can communicate all you want to somebody, but it's comprehension. If that person isn't ready to understand what you're saying, they're never actually going to fucking hear you. And I remember having a dream one night. It was I'm good at hearing, but I'm not good at listening, or something. No, so I think it's the other way around. I can listen, I can hear what you're saying, but I can't actually fucking comprehend it. And that's your lack of emotional intelligence, your lack of self-awareness, your lack of introspection. So how do we build that? We build it by going within, asking yourself those hard questions. Why am I feeling this way? And I think when we're so highly emotionally intelligent with ourselves, we can read what's not there. We can see discrepancies. We can read body language. We can even read the energy through a text message. Those words, those little things, it's just oh my God, that is such a deceptive message. I can read that you're lying, and that's I think it's a superpower to be vulnerable. It's a superpower to have high emotional intelligence. It's a superpower to be aware of yourself, but to have that awareness within yourself, you can read everything, and I know when I didn't have high emotional awareness or intelligence, I was a very naive person. I believed everyone, and everyone was a fucking liar. And they genuinely were but I believed absolutely everything. I was too trusting because I couldn't read energy. I didn't know I wasn't aware of how powerful I could be when I actually became aware. Now I can read everything. I know when someone's being deceptive. I know when someone's lying. I know I can, it's funny, you could say one thing and I could actually branch out. It's just I can see this chart in my mind. So you say a sentence and I've got these little things coming out of the sentence, and I can actually find the source of the sentence and understand where that person is coming from and whether that person is telling me the truth or not. And it's it is really a superpower. And I think opening up about how you feel is a superpower. Crying isn't weak. Crying is the fucking healthiest thing you can do. Crying actually releases endorphins. It actually it can actually heal you both physically and mentally. You know what I mean? And and it's a release. If you've got toxins in your body, you need to get them out. So if you've got emotions in your body, you need to get them fucking out, or they will end up going toxic. So speaking about your emotions, speaking about what's on your mind, oh my God, just open your mouth. As I said, a really good relationship between two people who are made for each other could completely go to shit because not one of them is speaking about how they're feeling. Or, somebody does speak about how they're feeling and the other one doesn't fucking listen. Do you know what I mean? It's just that simple. It's you need to start being aware of how your actions and behaviors affect other people as well. Do you know, how are your words and your actions affecting the next person? And it's so easy to upset somebody if you're not emotionally aware. Simplest of words, can be the wrong words, even though you might think that you're saying the right words, because you have to be aware of what you're saying and what you're expressing. Be aware of yourself, be aware of your own needs, and then you can read the needs of others. This is the most important thing in this world. Fuck money, fuck providing. We can all look after ourselves. That's not what relationships are about anymore. Relationships are about building trust and, strength. You're supposed to build that bond, but as I said, women don't need a man to provide for them anymore. They need to provide emotional stability, emotional protection. That's what we want. And I've seen so many relationships go to shit because the man is killing himself, working a job he hates to try and get money in to provide. All that his wife actually fucking wants is for him to be present for her and the children. Emotionally and physically present. Money isn't everything. Love is. Being present with yourself, with your awareness, your intelligence, your vulnerability. That's what we need. We're spiritual beings living a human experience. We're souls. We want soul deep connections. So soul deep connections involve high emotional intelligence and healthy levels of communication. That's what we need. If you want to thrive in this world, to move forward in this world, in both personal relationships and professional relationships, building your emotional intelligence is the way to go. You're not going to climb a ladder if you want to do that, or create your own business if you're sitting in the corner with your mouth closed, unaware of the surroundings, unaware of the tactics that you need to do to thrive in this world. If you're not aware of yourself, how are you going to be aware of anything or anyone around you? It's time to start opening up. And I had a viewer comment on one of my posts, and I think it was a really, really strong thing for him to do, a really brave thing for him to do, because he spoke about a relationship in his 20s and how, she didn't communicate with him what she needed from him. And in turn, he wasn't aware of what he needed to provide. So therefore, the relationship went to shit. And he said it was one of the biggest regrets. And he pointed out, if you're a man, open up, speak. And that's the same with women. What do you want? Speak what you want, because you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. You just can't. If this is your person, or if this is the right job for you, etc., whatever kind of relationship it is, you cannot say the wrong thing. Your voice is your superpower. Your vulnerability, your expression, your intelligence is your superpower. So being highly emotionally intelligent, being expressive with your emotions, that's not weak. That's the strongest thing you'll ever do. So it's time to use your voice. It's time to use your strength for what is strong, because it is actually weak to hide. It's weak to not express yourself, and it's weak not to be aware of who you are and not to be aware of how you are towards other people. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you'd like help on your journey, please book me for a discovery call today, and I'd love nothing more than to help you in your path.